Welcome to Wall with Sonwai. Today we're talking about Bersatu Youth's call for a media boycott against Minister Nga Kor Ming. Now, this isn't just some minor political disagreement. We're looking at a major political youth wing, Bersatu Youth, putting out this really strong public condemnation. They're targeting the Minister of Housing and Local Government, Nga Kor Ming, and actually demanding media outlets stop covering him altogether. I mean, when a group calls for basically a media blackout on a cabinet minister, you know things are serious.
Oh, absolutely. It immediately brings up big questions, doesn't it? Political accountability, the whole relationship between the press and the government, this whole controversy. It seems to pull together a few really contentious issues. There's the alleged ministerial intimidation of a journalist.
Right, that initial incident.
Exactly. Then there's this fundamental clash over promoting the national language, Bahasa Malaysia. And finally, the opposition's response to this, well, pretty unprecedented call for a media boycott.
Okay, let's unpack that initial incident first. The one that really sparked this off. Bersatu Youth Information Chief Harris Idaham Rashid gave his account involving the minister and a reporter. The claim is that the minister got quite defensive, maybe even aggressive, when asked what Harris described as a very appropriate question about a project name.
And the question itself is important here. The journalist was simply asking why the minister chose the name Lite U for a project instead of, a name in the national language.
It seems like a fair question.
It's standard journalistic work, really. It touches on public spending, cultural policy, constitutional stuff. It's about policy, not a personal attack.
But Harris Idaham Rashid flagged a specific comment from the minister as threatening and, well, arrogant for a cabinet member. The minister allegedly told the journalist, "I noted that. I will call your chief editor."
And that specific phrase, "I will call your chief editor," that's what really throws the issue of press freedom into the mix here. When a minister allegedly uses their official position to suggest involving a reporter's boss, just for asking a legitimate, if maybe uncomfortable, question.
Yeah, sounds like pressure.
It's interpreted that way, yes. As an attempt to shut down inquiry, maybe intimidate the press a little. Harris Idaham Rashid was very clear. He argued that kind of comment has absolutely no place in modern politics. He said it showed an arrogant side that's just not compatible with the accountability we expect from government leaders.
So the message from Harris Idaham Rashid is that this wasn't just a slip of the tongue, but a deliberate attempt to punish the reporter for asking tough questions.
Precisely. The thinking is, if officials can pressure editors over questions reporters ask, it really damages the media's ability, the fourth estate's ability to act as a check on power. Bersatu Youth clearly sees this alleged comment as crossing a line in terms of how ministers should behave toward the journalists doing their jobs.
Okay, so that covers the press freedom angle. Let's shift to the other core issue, the national language dispute over the project name Lite U. What was the minister's reported reason for using that English branding instead of Bahasa Malaysia?
Well, according to Harris Idaham Rashid's statement condemning it, the minister's justification was tied to Visit Malaysia year 2026. The idea apparently was that using English, specifically this Lite U phrase, would give tourists a better sense of belonging. It was framed as a sort of marketing or economic choice for international appeal.
And Harris Idaham Rashid wasn't having any of that. He called the defense shallow and baseless. And he didn't just leave it there. He brought the federal constitution into it.
He did. He went straight for the legal argument, pointing specifically to Article 152 of the federal constitution. For anyone listening who might not know, Article 152 states that the national language is the country's official language. So Bersatu Youth's argument is essentially that the minister's choice flies in the face of this constitutional duty to uphold and strengthen the national language, especially for official government projects, regardless of any perceived marketing benefits.
So it's framed not just as a preference, but as a matter of constitutional duty and setting a cultural example. What about the cultural side of Harris Idaham Rashid's argument? Why did he feel using English actually undermines tourism?
Yeah, that's interesting. Bersatu Youth's point is that tourists coming to Malaysia aren't looking for, a generic English experience they could get anywhere. They argue visitors want Malaysia's unique identity, its culture, its diverse society, what Harris termed Oriental etiquette. The political stance is that the national identity, expressed through the national language, should be a selling point, a source of pride, not something to be downplayed with catchy English names.
And he used an international example to make this point, didn't he? About national identity being a draw.
Yes, he brought up France. A pretty powerful comparison. He mentioned attractions like the Champs-Élysées, the Louvre Museum, world-famous places, all with French names. Millions visit every year, and the fact that many don't speak French doesn't stop them. The comparison aims to show that a strong national identity, reflected in its language, is actually a global attraction, not a barrier. The implication being, if France can do it, why shouldn't Malaysia proudly use its own language for its landmarks?
That definitely presents a strong counter-argument to the minister's reported focus on, let's say, immediate marketability. But just to understand the other side, even if Harris calls it shallow, what's the implied logic behind using Lite U for that sense of belonging? What's the thinking there, presumably?
Well, if you take that sense of belonging rationale for Visit Malaysia Year 2026, the assumption is probably about quick communication and market penetration for global travelers. In marketing speak, English is often seen as the global lingua franca for tourism. So using a simple, maybe trendy English phrase like I Lite U could be seen by the ministry as a shortcut to signal welcome and modernity to a wide international audience right away.
Okay, so it's this classic tension. Long-term national identity and constitutional pride versus perhaps short-term, easy access international marketing. And Harris Ida Hammersheed clearly falls on one side.
Absolutely. For Bersatu Youth, compromising the national language and then allegedly trying to intimidate a journalist questioning it, that's seen as a serious failure of duty and a lack of accountability.
Which leads us back to that very drastic political move demanded by Harris Ida Hammersheed, the call for a full media boycott. What exactly are they asking the media to do? And what kind of precedent would that even set?
They're urging all media outlets, traditional and online, to basically show solidarity by refusing to report anything about Nga Kor Ming. No news, no activities. It's not a call to criticize him. It's a call to make him effectively invisible in the news cycle. The stated goal is to teach him and potentially other leaders a harsh lesson about respecting the national language and perhaps press freedom.
Wow. That really puts the media in a tough spot. It shifts them from being reporters to being, well, enforcers of a kind of political accountability demanded by the opposition.
It's an extraordinary demand, no doubt. It forces media organizations into a real ethical dilemma. They have to weigh their fundamental role reporting government activities impartially against this political call for solidarity after alleged intimidation and constitutional disregard. And the impact of a boycott like that could be huge. You're potentially cutting off public information from the Ministry of Housing and Local Government news people might actually need.
So this whole situation really forces media outlets to think about their own power and the relationship with both the government and the opposition. How they respond could really shape whether opposition groups feel they can use the press this way to silence ministers as a form of political action.
It absolutely sets a precedent. If the media goes along with it, even partly, it could validate this tactic for future political disputes. It becomes a tool to enforce certain standards outside of parliament or the courts.
So let's bring this back to you, our listeners, following Malaysian politics. When you consider this balance promoting national identity, like Harris Ida Hammersheed argues under Article 152, versus the minister's approach of attracting tourists with English branding, what really stands out to you in this debate? It certainly throws that ongoing tension between domestic pride and global outreach into sharp relief.
And that tension is where the political battleground often lies, isn't it? It's not just about a name. It's about defining what comes first. Our commitment to cultural and constitutional identity, or strategies for short-term economic gain or marketing buzz. How the government answers that really shapes its relationship with its own heritage.
Ultimately, the core question seems to be whether a leader's drive for international engagement can override the constitutional mandate for the national language, especially when that drive potentially sours the crucial relationship with the press. The next steps will really show how media institutions react when faced with such a direct call for collective action from a political group.
Indeed. We'll have to watch closely how the media responds. Will they assert their independence and continue impartial coverage? Or will they align with the call, perhaps seeing it as a stand against perceived ministerial overreach?
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.